Everyone is part of a bigger story. It's a bigger story than you can imagine. It's a big story about a really big God. Discover the story that shows you the character of God. Hi there, I'm CJ, and this glow-in-the-dark globe right here is even more awesome than an iWatch. Because it's my Bible, seriously. See, the Bible is really one big book made up of 66 smaller books. The first 39 are called the Old Testament, while the remaining 27, starting with Jesus' birth, are the New Testament. They all fit together perfectly to tell God's one big story, how God created us and loves us so much. He's made a plan to rescue us so that we can live with Him forever. One of the coolest things about being made by God in His own image is that we can reflect some of His character. God gave everything to help us when we needed it most, and we can show that in our own lives by serving others, by lending a hand to someone else. And I've got 5 stories right here that put hands and feet to what service really looks like. We start in the New Testament, in Mark chapter 10. Here, Jesus' friends, James and John, they get a bright idea. Jesus has been talking about what His kingdom will look like. And James and John are thinking big. I'm talking a towering palace, spiffy robes, and of course, royal thrones. They try to reserve the best spots by asking Jesus if they can sit beside Him when He's a king. Of course, the other disciples, they want in on the action too. Things are getting pretty heated when Jesus flips it all upside down. He tells His friends the most important person shouldn't be looking for a crown, but ways to lend a hand. Now we're going to back up to the Old Testament, to the book of Deuteronomy. Here, God gives His people some rules to help them reflect His image in how they live. Check this out. Suppose someone is poor among you, and suppose they live in one of the towns in the land the Lord your God is giving you. Then don't be mean to them. They are poor, so don't hold back money from them. Instead, open your hands and lend them what they need, and do it freely. Bottom line, giving is good, whether it's your stuff or your time or just helping out. But when you do lend a hand, keep your heart soft and do it with a good attitude. We're jumping around this month, which means a trip back to the New Testament. Let's check out the book of John, chapter 6. Here, Jesus gives His friends a pretty impossible job. Make a dinner for more than 5,000 people. All they can find is one boy who's brought a couple of fish and 5 loaves of bread for his lunch. But the kid offers what he's got, and in Jesus' hands, that Lunchable goes a long way. Time to hop back to the Old Testament. To 1 Kings chapter 17. There's a famine in the land of Israel, and the prophet Elijah is in serious need of food. So, God sends him to a town called Zarephath to find a woman and her son. This woman barely has anything to eat herself, just a handful of flour and a little oil for one more meal of bread. But when Elijah asks for food, she trusts God to provide and starts baking. Even though she's emptied the flour and used up the oil, when she peeks back inside the jars, they might just as well be holding an all-you-can-eat buffet. Final stop, the New Testament again. I know, right? This is an awesome Bible workout. This time, we're checking out the book of Matthew, chapter 6, verses 1 through 4. Here, Jesus gives His followers a super important reminder. Be careful not to do good deeds in front of other people. Don't do those deeds to be seen by others. Do not be like those who pretend to be holy. They announce what they do in synagogues and on the streets. They want to be honored by other people. When you give to needy people, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. Then, your giving will be done secretly. Your Father will reward you. Don't lend a hand just so other people will be impressed. Keep the good stuff you do under wraps. God will still see, and His opinion is the only one that truly matters. After all, Jesus, God's very own Son, chose to give his whole life to serving others. When we begin living to serve, we start looking just a little bit more like him. That's service, and I can't wait to see how it plays out in you and me.